Hello everyone, I'm Simon from Personal Finance Europe, and today we are talking about perhaps the most important rule, not just in the world of finance, but perhaps for your entire life. I am of course talking about Pareto's principle. It's invented by an Italian, so it's probably called Pareto's principle instead. Okay, it was a bad joke, but anyway, let's just call it by its most commonly known term, and that is the 20-80 rule. Pareto, or Pareto, or however you want to call him, he was an economist. So he noticed that about 80% of the land in Italy was owned by just 20% of the people. But he wasn't alone in that regard. For example, Microsoft noticed that if they fixed just the 20% most reported bugs of a particular software, they would already fix about 80% of the related issues. As you can see, this rule can be applied to a lot of different fields and sectors. But you may wonder why exactly that I'm telling you this. Well, it's a simple rule, but it can save you a lot of time, energy and money just by following it or just keeping it in the back of your mind. I, for example, use this rule all the time when I'm taking decisions, and I will get more into that just in a second. Let's start with money first and see how you can apply it to that. Let's first start with products that you might want to buy. For example, say you are interested in buying a new car, but you want to have the absolute best value for your money. I will showcase a graph here on the screen right now so you can follow along. You could, for example, buy a Toyota and have about 80% of the features for about 20% of the price. Or you could buy a similar Mercedes that has slightly more features such as better ride comfort, more horsepower, or maybe it's just more fun to drive in general. But that also means that it's probably going to cost about twice as much, so situated here. And yes, maybe for you a Mercedes is a more fun car to drive than a Toyota. But then you must also ask yourself, is it worth paying double for slightly more fun? And truly this question is very personal and depends a lot on your specific situation. For example, say your budget is a lot higher and you want to spend more on a car and you're a big car enthusiast, then yes, it might make sense to buy a Mercedes. Or say, for example, that you want a car that you want to keep for the next 10, 15 years, then it might also make sense to go for the Mercedes. But truly, this is a question that only you can answer for yourself, considering everything you deem important in a car, or any other product for that matter. Let's make the example even more extreme and add a Rolls-Royce into the mix. Yes, it might be a faster car than the Mercedes. It might be a more beautiful car, depending on your opinion, of course. It might have slightly higher ride comfort. But if you have to express that in a percentage, it's maybe 20, 30% better than a Mercedes. But you're paying 10 times as much. So again, it really depends on your specific situation. And yes, this is a pretty extreme example, but I really hope that you see my point. This can be applied to literally any product category that you can imagine. To give a more real-life example, say for example mobile phones. I use my mobile phone for texting, some internet, an app here and there, and maybe a photo or two, but that's about it. And then you may wonder, is it worth it for me to buy a mobile phone that costs 1,200 euros? Probably not, so I stick with a phone that costs 300 euros, and for me that's perfectly fine. Now, on a quick side note, I don't mean that more expensive items always equal a better product. But here it is important that you do your own research and use a 20-80 rule to see which product is best for your specific situation. Especially so when buying high-ticket or expensive items. Now, even in investing this is the case. Say you wish to know, for example, whether a stock or any investment really is a good buy or not, then there are just a couple key metrics that you really have to do. And if you've done those, then you've already done about 80% of the homework required to know if it's a good buy or not. If you want to know which ones these are exactly, I will discuss them further in another video, so just hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to stay updated. Or for most investments, this means that about 20% of the effort is already 80% of the returns. Usually these are gathered just from most, don't want to say boring, but let's say easy options in investing, like for example blue chip stock companies, pension savings funds, or just in plain old index funds. If, for example, you want to save more, then just look at the top 20% of your expenditures. Chances are, if you are able to save up on one of those, you are going to save a lot more than on the bottom 80%. For example, rent is probably going to be in that category, and one way you can save up on rent is by living with a roommate, or a partner, or a brother, or whoever you choose. But you're going to save a lot more that way than not buying your favorite magazine each week, for example. And now we're going to talk about the second major resource that you can save just by following the 20-80 rule. And this is time. It's really the most important resource since, unlike money, once you've spent it, you can't really get it back. But by following the 20-80 rule, you can really save a lot of it. Think about studying, for example. If I ask you to get 80% on a test, you probably are going to have to study a lot. But if I ask you to get 100%, you're going to probably have to study about 5 times more at least than you would otherwise. Or for time management purposes. If you want to achieve something, think of the 20% of work that actually needs to be done to achieve most of the result. For example, if you ask medical students to learn a specific course, chances are that they are going to start with the table of contents. And why is this exactly? Well, it's because they can use that table of contents as a focal point for the entire course and base everything around that focal point or that table of contents. So it will make learning everything else in the course a lot easier. Or in regards to anything that you might want to achieve. Say, for example, that you want to lose weight. Chances are that there are already a couple things that you can cut back on that will have more of a profound effect than any new diet or any new set of exercises. And I'm not saying that exercising is bad or another diet might not help, but I'm saying that maybe, for example, cutting back on your soda consumption or alcohol consumption will do a lot more for you than any new diet can. The list goes on, but the simple fact of the matter is that if you want to really implement this rule in your life, there's just one thing that you have to do all the time, or anytime you want to make a decision. And that's just simply ask the W questions, or the what, the why, the where, the when. And simply by asking these questions, you can really think for yourself whenever you want to make a decision, whether or not it is actually good for you or there might be better alternatives. Say, for example, that I want to drink a soda. Then I can ask myself, is it because I'm thirsty? Because then, really, maybe water is a better solution to that problem than a soda is. Or a great example is when you're at your job, there is a high chance that you are going to do some tasks that really take up a lot of your time, aren't very fun to do, and maybe there is a better solution to that. And just by asking, is there a better way to do the things that I'm doing right now? You might come up with a better solution to that problem, and it might be more fun, or there might be a more efficient way to do it in the future. If you want to do more research on this specific topic, then I can highly recommend the book The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. He basically explains this concept even further. That about wraps it up for this video. I really enjoyed making this new style of content, so if you did as well, leave a like, subscribe down below, subscribe down below and leave a comment. And I hope to see you next time. See ya!